Hello, and welcome back to Mystery of Raid. The following is the hero story of Dromai, the Draconic Illusionist hero introduced in Uprising. As always, this story is a property of Legend Story Studios, and I'm here just to narrate it. This particular story was written by Edwin McRae and Rachel Reese, directed by Robbie Wen, and with illustrations from Sam Yang and Nikolai Moskvin. You can always find the written story at the Flesh and Blood TCG website, or through the link in the description. But now, please, enjoy the Dromai hero story. Vinserakai, calls Dromai. Esvalai, Nekria. Vinserakai burst from a fire-gutted house, raw and red with fury. Esvalai's crystal scales glisten in the desert sun as she rises from the ashes of a temple. Nekria shakes free of a charred corpse pile, a light monstrosity hatching from a loathsome cocoon. The Imperial soldiers look up in awe as the dragons attack the towering wall of sandstone. They have suffered the blistering sun and the water rations, the scathing sandstorms and the haunting desert nights. These defenses have protected the sandfolk for centuries, and still they hold strong. Though never have they faced a woman like Dromai. Vinserakai smashes through sandstone like a boulder propelled from a volcano. Nekria melts mortar and bricks with billows of noxious gas. Esvalai darts through the holes to bite and tear at the enemy illusionists beyond. Red paints the white sands as the first illusionist loses his head to Esvalai's snapping jaws. Another rushes forward to repair the wall, only to be bisected by the crystal dragon's sharp tail. The wall is a figment of the sandfolk's imagination, made manifest in the minds of the men who stand before it. Dromai's dragons fly the same thin line between dream and reality. Yet, when an illusion is powerful enough, seeing truly is believing. Semblance becomes stone, fancy becomes flesh. We should have brought you here from the beginning, says Satari. You honor your father's memory. Torvai was betrayed by love, answers Dromai. I have no such weakness. As the wall crumbles, the remaining illusionists drive Esvalai back with spinning tornadoes of sand. Dromai dances her dragons between the dust devils with the graceful motion of her hands. Nekria douses a pair of illusionists with vile fumes from her skeletal maw. The women scream as the flesh runs in rivulets from their bones. No sentiment for your mother's own people, wonders the Drakai spy master. The woman who left me with traitors? Never. As if her thought is a summons, Sani shimmers into existence before Dromai's startled eyes. She was a babe in arms when her mother was murdered, yet Dromai recognizes the sandalwood scent, soft and comforting. Is something wrong? Satari's voice is distant, barely discernible. Don't you see her? See who? Harsh reality snaps back into place as Vinserakai is torn limb from limb by a tornado. Sani vanishes, a mirage summoned by the enemy to distract Dromai. She tries to rein in her remaining dragons, but it's too late. A twister leaves Esvalai limp and broken. Another swallows Nekria, bone by bone. I spoke too soon. Satari's voice is flat, inscrutable. Perhaps you are the pathetic half-blood they say you are. The fire of anger flickers beneath her wariness. Though her mind reels from the sight of her sandfolk mother and the loss of her dragons, she lifts her chin, facing Satari's disappointment with dignity. I will try again. You are dead on your feet. All I need is rest. No. He gestures at the great wall that grows once more from the sand, already towering over his army. Surprise broke this siege, if only for a moment. It will not work for a second time. Our supplies are low and our morale is even lower. He turns to look at the distant silhouette of Mount Volkor. We are done here. Dromai forces herself to watch the armor's withdrawal, to sear this failure into her memory with a white-hot brand. If she is to become a Drakai, she must never turn from shame. She must never forget. Back in Ashvahan, the restless days crawl by as Dromai bides her time. Every day she pores over the tomes of the 12 dragons. Every day she practices her art, driving herself to exhaustion so that her sleep is empty of shameful dreams. Every day she petitions Satari for another mission, another chance to prove herself. On the 13th day, Satari visits her chambers, a modest room at the rear of the palace. Little better than a soldier's quarters. There has been an insurrection, begins Atari. You have spoken with the Emperor? He raises his hand, silencing her. The rebels have captured General Riku. She has not heard that name for 10 years. Not since Atari came to her village. Not since Riku's soldiers drove her murderous foster mother into the forest. Not since Min's lies were burned away by the Dracai's truth about her real parents. If you bring him to the palace, alive and well, continues Atari, we will declare you Dracai. The stain of her Volkai blood washed clean, Dromai hides her excitement behind the mask of determination. When do we leave? They ride out at the first light with 1,000 hussars at their back. At dusk of the second day, they reach the mangled outer fields of Golden Orchard Estate. The air is thick with the meaty sweetness of funeral pyres. Peasants pick over the corpses of imperial soldiers, heaping their plunder into carts. Find Raikou, growls Atari. Dromai rides for the hill overlooking the estate. Campfires line the slopes, and at its summit a bonfire burns bright, brazen against the gathering gloom. The cavalry thunders behind her, crushing under hoof any scavenger who fails to reach shelter. Thousands of hoofbeats echo the thousands of dream beats that heralded the Emperor's rare appearance that day, 10 years ago. Her first visit to the throne room, all of her fire and courage, her calm and poise, fled her in an instant. Never had she witnessed such power, a power to bow to, a power to aspire to. Dromai chants as she rides. When she hits the edge of the rebel encampment, Tumultai lifts off from the skeleton of a burned-out barn. His hide is as hard as petrified lava, and his bare teeth drip with fresh magma. Rebels try to muster, raising stolen halberds and spears, bracing them as a pointed barricade against the approaching cavalry. Tumultai's jagged tail sweeps them aside. Dromai rides over their broken bodies and urges her steed up the hill. Rebels spill from their tents. Tumultai greets them with dragon fire. Behind her, Satari directs his hussars through the confusion. His firesight allows him to read the flames like a map. That is how he knew of Riku's capture, just as they told him, all those years ago, where to find Dromai, the orphan. At the crown of the hill, Dromai dismounts and takes cover behind a broken tree. Ahead of her, a silver-haired woman stands over a finely dressed corpse. Next to the dead woman, bound and gagged, lies her prize, General Riku, bloodied and cowed, but alive. Silverhair barks orders to the fighters who are holding the high ground against Satari's cavalry. One such fighter, a young man in a ragged red cloak, knocks a rider from her saddle with a magnificent flying kick. Dromai can't make out his face through the smoke and dust, but she can tell by his predatory grace that he is a man to be wary of. Though not for long. She brings Tumultai soaring into view. Raikou is too close to the rebels to risk dragonfire. Instead, she whips Silverhair off her feet with a dragon's tail, then charges Tumultai into the fray to rend and tear the traitors apart. To Dromai's surprise, Silverhair struggles to her feet. With shouts and curses, she rallies the few survivors. Dromai spins Tumultai to finish her, but the ragged cloaked man gets there first. Riding a stolen cavalry horse, he scoops the woman up. For a moment, Dromai sees his scarred face. 10 years have turned his boyish features into those of a battle-hardened man. Phi of the Forest of Flames, son of Min the murderer. Her false sibling gallops down the hillside with the silver-haired rebel slung over the neck of his horse. Dromai lets him go. She has more pressing matters to attend to. She lands Tumultai next to Raikou, protecting her prize, and then frees him from his bonds. Thank you, rasps the general. Dromai smiles, but not for Raikou's sake. His gratitude is meaningless. It is the Emperor's thanks she keenly awaits. She looks up as Atari rides over the crest of the hill. His sharp eyes take in the scene. His smile mirrors hers. Now the Emperor will see what I see in you. She bows her head, accepting the praise and the honor that accompanies it. Like the village of her childhood, her past has been burned away. No longer is she the little girl raised by rebels. No longer the daughter of shame. No longer Dromai the half-blood. She is where she belongs, where her dragon blood has burned to be for 30 years. She is Dracai.